I am curious about how one goes about receiving a spiritual name. I've been having thoughts about taking a new spiritual name. So, in spirituality, one of the first things that we learn is you are not this body. I remember more than 25 years ago now, when I had first come here and I was sitting at Puja Swamiji's feet, and he held up a pen and he says to me, "You are not this pen." Now, I was a 25-year-old PhD student. I knew I wasn't a pen. And I started laughing, but he did not laugh. And he said, "Ki, today you are laughing because you know you are not a pen, but you still think that you are this body, that you are your identity, you are your story, you are your history." And he said, "Someday you will laugh just as much when I say, you are not that body, you are not that history, you are not that identity, as you did today when I said you're not a pen." And I begin with this because it's a very interesting question. A spiritual name. Obviously, when we take vows of initiation into brahmacharya, initiations into sannyas, we change our name. But even when people are not being initiated into a monastic tradition, so many people, Pura Vishwa se log aake Puja Swamiji se pratana karte ki, please give me some spiritual name. And so on the one hand, we know that spirituality 101, basic fundamentals, are we are not our body, we're not our story, we're not our history, we're not the identity, which obviously means we're not our name. I mean, if I'm not this, then surely I'm not what you call it. And yet, a name has a very powerful impact upon us. Every time we meet someone and we say, "Oh, my name is so-and-so," or every time someone calls you by that name, it's a reinforcement to you of who they think you are, and a reinforcement of who you are presenting to the world as. Now, there's no names that aren't nice, whether they're names from India that have beautiful meanings, names from the West that we don't usually have meanings. I remember when I first came to India and people would say, "Oh, my name is Jyoti. It means light." Or, "My name is Vivek. It means the power of discrimination." And I would think, wow, how nice to be able to actually have a meaning to your name. In America, almost nobody's names mean anything unless you go to the dictionary and you find some very, very obscure definition. But even if it's a nice name that has a nice meaning, like light, or the power of discrimination, or beauty, there's something very different and very deep about having a name that reminds you are a spiritual being. And our spiritual names remind us of that. Spiritual names tend to be names of the divine, or they tend to be names of divine qualities. So whether it's Krishna or whether it's Karuna, The names that get given are names that when you say, my name is, it's not just, this is what you can call me. It's a constant reminder, I am. I am divine. I am an embodiment of compassion, of love, of divinity. And so I think a spiritual name is very, very beautiful and very powerful. And I would certainly recommend anyone who's having thoughts about it to do it. Because while on the deepest level we are not the identity at all, that's a very difficult place to get to. It's something we may know intellectually, but we don't actually know it really in our hearts, really in our existences. So along the way, as we are walking the path of spirituality, learning dire, I'm not the body, I'm not the identity, I'm not the history. At least along the way, have an identity ki jab bhi aap naam batate hain, naam sunate hain, ya naam sunte hain, it reminds you of your divine qualities. So it's a beautiful tradition. It's something I love and I always recommend to people.